progress.
Friends, why don't we let David, instead of trying that again, let's just enjoy Emily's playing.
Okay.
Yay, thank you. Thank you, Emily.
Good morning. And now we know why we enjoy live music. Welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Lynchburg. We are glad you are here. Whoever you are, whatever your beliefs, whatever your age, and whomever you love, you are welcome here. As we work together for justice, compassion, and peace, we also acknowledge with humility that our buildings sit on Monacan land. My name is Betty Corbin, and I'm currently serving as the Vice President and/or President-elect of this congregation. If you're with us for the first time, we are glad you chose to be here. And you can find a name card in the back pocket, yellow one, if you want to fill out that information. Or if you're online, you can go to the virtual website at uulynchburg.org under Sunday Services. Please take note of the announcements in your bulletin, and if you're on Zoom, you'll find them in the Friday e-news. Okay, now here's the exciting news for the day. Barbara and Terry are going on a pilgrimage, 100 kilometers to be exact. And so many of us are a little bit envious, a little bit in awe, but we can't go because we just planted snow peas. But you have an opportunity to send a piece of you with them because there are ties out in the Drysdale Hall, Fellowship Hall, and you can write a little message and they're going to tie the tie on their backpack. And so you need to do two, one for Barbara. Barbara, stand up and wave. And Terry. So the name of this, I'm going to, my apologies to anyone who knows Spanish. They will be on the Camino de Santiago. Now I invite us to all release our worries, take a deep breath, and try to be calm for a few minutes, if not an entire hour.
Will you join me as we light our trellis? May the light we now kindle inspire us to use our powers to heal and not to harm, to help and not to hinder, to bless and not to curse, to serve you, O Spirit of life.
I invite us now to rise in body or spirit to share together hymn 44, We Sing of Golden Mornings. I'd like to invite our young people. No matter what age you are, you're still young to me. Young in spirit. Good morning. It's nice to see you. So, today I want us to talk about, which we know because we study this, that people all around the world, even within the Lynchburg area, we have different beliefs about what's important. But this month is a very special month for millions and millions of people around the world who are Muslim. This is the celebration of Ramadan. And that is a time when everyone who's part of the Muslim faith prays and really focuses on caring for those who don't have enough food to eat, those who are poor. And so to make that understanding of what it means to be hungry, to make it a reality, people don't eat from sunrise until sunset, all through the month of Ramadan. I don't know about you, but that would be hard to do. And so when Muslims fast, the not eating is called fasting, like little kids, they get to eat. But as children grow up, they see all the adults in their community fasting together, and they say, I'm old enough to do this now. So it's almost like, I think in this country we would call it a rite of passage, where children, maybe your age, Penelope, or maybe a little bit older, say, I'm grown up enough that I can fast with the adult community. It's sort of like growing up. In this country, probably one of the big rites of passage we have is getting a driver's license. But this is younger than that. So that would be pretty hard to do, wouldn't it? Yeah. But what makes the difference is that they're all doing it together, the whole community. And a lot of times, children in elementary school or high school think of projects that they can do to help people.
Why do they not eating soda until sunset?
After dark? Because in their religion, this holiday helps them understand, we talk about helping people who are poor or don't have a lot, but in their faith, they actually feel hungry. And so it makes them more aware of what it's like if you don't have enough food to eat or you don't have a home. And so they're doing something hard to help them understand how to care more for other people. So sometimes children, when they start fasting, they will think of a project, someone they've met or that they want to help, or something that they want to fix that they feel is wrong in their community. And at the end of the day, each day, people gather at the mosque and they have prayers, and then they have a big dinner. So they sort of make up for being hungry the whole day. My friend Rahana says, I always gain weight over Ramadan because people are so hungry, they want to eat more. But you know what's really important to remember about this is every community of people, including us, we can do things to help others. And we can live our lives in such a way that we help those who may not have all the privileges and the good things that we have. And so it's important for us to remember that no matter what age we are, we can help each other. And we also need to remember that no matter what happens in our lives, our community, our religious community, can be a support and can care for us no matter what happens. We're here to support one another and to care for others in the world. So I'd like for y'all to think about that. And if you have any more questions about Ramadan or something else, you can ask me later, okay?
So today in our religious education classes, we're going to be learning about, we're going to be finishing up our study of vulnerability. And today we're going to be learning about how we have to make ourselves vulnerable to share our true selves with others, and how that can be really hard, but it can make us feel really good if we have people that we can trust and can share ourselves with. And we will also be talking a little bit about how important names are, the names that we call ourselves and the names that we call the places that we love, and that sometimes places like our church talk about if a different name would be a better fit. And so we will be exploring that upstairs, just like the grown-ups will be talking about it down here. And I would like to invite Nora and Beth to be our chalice lighters today.
This is a poem by Reverend Dr. Hope Johnson called One Love. We are one, a diverse group of proudly kindred spirits, here not by coincidence, but because we choose to journey together. We are active and proactive. We care deeply. We live our love as best we can. We are one, working, eating, laughing, playing, singing, storytelling, sharing, and rejoicing, getting to know each other, taking risks, opening up, questioning, seeking, searching, trying to understand, struggling, making mistakes, paying attention, asking questions, listening, living our answers, learning to love our neighbors, learning to love ourselves, apologizing and forgiving with humility, being forgiven through grace, creating the beloved community together. We are one.
This morning, we take an offering of our gifts. With gratitude for this community and for the meaning that this community has in our lives, for the work that we have to do together. And so, with gratitude, we accept your gifts that are generously given and gratefully received. I receive. It is the tradition of our community to share together our joys and concerns, the milestones that come up in our lives. And so we invite you, as you are so moved, to come forward to share a joy or concern. If you are Spirit of life and love, we are so grateful today for the blessing of community, for the possibility and the hope for working together to make a more loving, compassionate, beloved community that weaves in all people, that works for the good of all. We give thanks today for this community that honors the democratic process, that struggles, is challenged, finds hope, works together, prays together, plays together. We are so fortunate, and we are so aware that the community we have is the community that we create. We hold up today the needs of the world, that we may find the work that is ours to do. And maybe we find strength and joy and hope and justice as we work together. Blessed be. Amen. Of the Name Change Taskforce, I'd like to express our appreciation for the number of people who participated and completed the survey. And what I found really amazing, and I think we all do, is that people didn't just fill out the survey. How many of us have just filled out the survey and left all the comments blank? But being Unitarian Universalists, we deeply appreciate the time that people took to really express your thoughts and feelings, your diligence and thoughtful comments, I think really speak to the commitment that we all have to our congregation and its future. So in the coming weeks, there are going to be more opportunities to continue to think about and discuss the survey results and our thoughts about a name change, as it seems that a large plurality of the congregation thinks we should move forward. There will be 2 opportunities this week to talk with members. You should all have received an email this morning with Zoom links to those meetings. So much, much gratitude to Kim for all of her work, the amazing magic she worked with the survey. So we're looking forward to hearing what you discovered.
Okay, let's see if I can share my
We
screen.
probably should have brought popcorn for this.
Yeah, to throw at me, right?
Something.
David, I'll need screen sharing. For some reason, it's not letting me. All right, so I apologize for the late hour with which you got the detailed report. You know, we closed off data collection last week on Saturday, which was cutting it close. And then when I looked at the respondents, I noticed that there were a few people who,
Yeah, you should be able to share it now.
okay, there were a few people who had started the survey but didn't continue it. So I could tell that they had opened it. So I reached out to them to see if they would do it, you know, wouldn't mind completing it. And so we did get a few extra ones after that, but by that time it was Thursday. So, yeah, thank you. There we go. So, so anyway, a lot of this was put together rather kind of rushed. And so, any mistakes in the report, grammatical errors, misspellings are all on me. I did get good feedback from the task force. I had a really good group of people to work with. Hannah Simons, Bob Morse, Betty, where is she? Oh, there, she's right there, and Reverend Terry. And so a lot of our work had already been done for us, laying the foundation of what we wanted to do with the survey. Now, when you change name of a church that means so much to people, it really matters that you reach out and get the opinions of as many people as possible, a broad cross section. And so we sent out the survey to practically everybody we had a email for. And for those who don't have email, we had printed copies. And none of the other task members could see who responded because of the way I distributed the survey using software from Sweetbriar, don't tell them. I could see who responded, and that's only with me. That's kind of the nature of the work I do at the college. And so, so even though you're not anonymous for the report, and in the eyes of the task force, you are. But that tracking was important because then I could see that their important voices hadn't been heard. And so I reached out to them to get them. And so that's that. So late last night, I was still working on fine tuning the report. And it turns out this was an unbelievably busy week for the Sinha household. That wasn't part of the plan when we set out our time frame. So that, just as an excuse, I'll just put that out there. Anyway, so I want to share with you results of the survey, just the highlights. Now, we sent you the full report. It has everything in it. So there were it's never a good idea in a survey to have a lot of open-ended questions. And for people who were responding using their smartphones, that's especially challenging. But I'm really impressed that most people took time to fill out some of the open-ended questions, because it gave us a whole lot of information about how you perceive the church, how you think we're perceived in the community, your thoughts on a name, and that's really good. And we're going to have these 2 virtual town halls. You can attend any one of them. You can attend both of them if you want, where I'll be on there to talk about the findings, answer your questions. We can provide more input and look at this. And then at some point after that, we're going to do one more survey that it won't be like this. It'll be very brief. It'll have the finalists that you can then vote for, because it's very different when you're looking at a list of 12 names, which in retrospect was probably too many for a survey of this kind, but it's what we had in terms of our January town hall. We'll narrow it down to the top 5, for example, and you can select one of those, because one of those 5 may not be the one that you favored or showed a preference for in this survey. So with that said, let me see, what am I doing here? Okay, so we were nominated to serve on the task force by the church board, who is our governing authority. And we met several times to put together a survey, a questionnaire. Lots of feedback and input from the team. They're really good and thorough. So we came up with our survey. So it launched on Friday, March 3rd, and we gave everybody till Saturday the 18th, just last Saturday, to complete it. I set it up to send reminders to people who hadn't responded. And so it went out to about 147 members. And then Betty, you printed about 10 or 15 questionnaires that were sent by mail or hand delivered at the Alliance, I think, or whatever, to get that feedback. And we did get several returned handwritten questionnaires that I entered. And so I believe it's a fairly representative cross-section of our congregation. And so I feel pretty confident in the results that we got. Now, I understand some people had some technical issues. So again, no surveys ever perfect, no data collections ever perfect, but this is the best we could do. And I'm pretty proud of the work we did. So we used a software package called Qualtrics because it's what I work with at Sweetbriar. And it gives us a lot more power to do things than, say, SurveyMonkey. And it's not terribly expensive, but for a church of our size who doesn't do a whole lot of surveys, it's not, so we're luckily we had access to this. So you could either do it on a tablet, on your laptop, or even on your phone. So we had 81 members and friends who responded to the survey. And so that was approximately half of the people who were sent an email invitation. And bear in mind, there are about a quarter of those email addresses are people who have moved away, are still interested in the church, but they're not actively present in the church. So this 81, I think, is a bigger number than it would appear in that 50% response rate. I'm really pleased at how many people responded. And it does represent the diversity of the congregation, from some of our oldest members and longest living members that we have present to some of our young adults who are fairly new, and people who have only recently started attending and have shown an investment in the church in their participation in events and everything. So again, I think we really captured that diversity. So the first question, we kind of we weren't sure how the flow of the survey should go. So we started sort of in the very general, what kind of words would you want in a name? What do you think is important? And so the exercise was, of all these words, if you had to narrow it down to say 5, which would you drop, which would you keep, and sort of on this scale. And so I don't know how well you can see the chart, but it is in your report. And so the axis goes through the middle, so anything on the red is the maybe drop or definitely drop. In the green is definitely keep, and the blue is sort of, I don't know, I'm not sure. So clearly Unitarian Universalist, that's kind of a no-brainer. Maybe I shouldn't have even put it in there. Congregation, Lynchburg community, so that was there. I should note that Central Virginia, although kind of in the neutral category, did come up quite frequently in the open-ended responses, where we asked about other names that would come to mind. And I think that's because some people really struggle with our town's name, Lynchburg, and its association with lynchings. There's a whole story on that, not because we were a hub of lynchings here, I'm sure some happened, but it's named after a relative of John Lynch who settled Lynchburg. So interesting story. Maybe we can do a sermon on that sometime. But there's some discomfort with having that as part of our church name. So Central Virginia, some other names like James River, Seven Hills, things like that were suggested at the town meeting as alternatives for that. I'll get into that a little later. So then we had a question where you could use a slider so you had the name. And by the way, the nice thing about Qualtrics is I could randomize the order at which you saw the list. So there wasn't any, order bias in the way the words were presented, whether they were alphabetized or I had randomized them and just stuck them. Everybody when you got your questionnaire, the sequence of the list of names would have been different than when you got the questionnaire, to kind of rule out that kind of bias. And I do understand on this question, some people had difficulty sorting, and of course, when there's 12, beyond 5 or 6, they all start to kind of be the same. But for what it's worth, this is how they came out on the chart. Now on this chart, you want a low score. So you want first place, second place, third place, up to 12. We had these 12 names that we were using. So it kind of looks counterintuitive because I put the axis in the middle at about 6.5, but anything in the dark blue got the lowest score. So they got the most first place, second place, top scores. And so those names in order are Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Lynchburg, Unitarian Universalists of Lynchburg, First Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Lynchburg, First Unitarian Universalist Church of Lynchburg, and Lynchburg Unitarian Universalist. Now, I would caution that in the open-ended responses, a lot of people had suggested names similar to that, but instead of Lynchburg, they had Central Virginia. And because that wasn't included in the names that we had you rank and order, when we do the next round, we'll have a name with Central Virginia. We might have a question of what's your preference? Should it be Lynchburg or Central Virginia? Some way to gauge your feelings about that so that we capture that. I was really surprised. I had a sense, that people were favoring a name change, but you never know till you really get everybody to answer and respond. And our town meeting had a good turnout, but it wasn't 147 people or 81 people. So this is rather encouraging in that a plurality of our congregation does favor a name change. And I think also when you see the names that emerge as contenders, they're not dramatically different from what our current name is. So I suspect that, and my hope is that even those who strongly disfavor changing our name will maybe feel a little bit warmer towards that choice or action that the church may take once they see what the final contenders are and can vote on that. A question asked whether our current name, which is long, reflects our identity in the community. And I thought it would be higher on the yes, but we're fairly evenly split between yes and no, and then a quarter of respondents were not sure. Now, we asked 2 questions, open-ended, and they're in the report side by side. So you can see for each respondent how they answered one question and then the next question. And I think for me, when I framed these questions, it was just to get a sense of how do we see ourselves, how do we think our community sees us, and is there a difference between that and how we want to be seen? There's what we are and what we aspire to be. But there was a lot of similarity in both of those, and I think that's a good thing. It means that we feel fairly secure in the fact that we are living our mission. We are living our faith. We are example in the community. So these are word clouds, and what they're based on is the frequency with which a word was mentioned. So the bigger the word, the more often it was mentioned. And there were fewer responses to the what we want to be than there were to the what are we known for. So the first word cloud has a little bit more density to it than the second, but you can see there's a lot of commonality between those. And when you look at the report and you see the side-by-side responses, you'll see that there's not a lot of dissonance between those two. And I think that's really encouraging and says a lot for us and what we know about ourselves. You may think differently, and once you've had a chance to look at that, this will be something we can discuss in our virtual town halls. And then finally, we went from the broad of just general words to rank order these 12 to if you had to pick one name that represents our identity, what we want to be known for. So that those open-ended questions were a deliberate attempt to get you thinking, what are we? What do we want to be known for? Now, of the 12 names, which one best represents those features? And it's very similar to the earlier list, but these were the top contenders. And the 5th being our current name. So I thought that was really good. And like I said, a lot of these names don't differ significantly from what we currently call ourselves. So it's not like we're calling ourselves, and I don't mean this in any bad way, Tree of Life or Peace and Love Church or Welcoming Center, or, things that really don't convey our denomination, for example. The other thing we noted is that words that were surrogates for Lynchburg, like Hill City, Seven Hills, James River, weren't particularly popular with people, and that was apparent throughout. And so it's very clear that we either want Lynchburg or Central Virginia and not like the river or, and monument I put in there as kind of a throwaway word, but some people liked it, but it clearly didn't rise to the top. So, so in our next round of polling, we'll probably have these 5 plus a question, Central Virginia versus Lynchburg, because anywhere in these, you could substitute Central Virginia for Lynchburg and it basically be the same name. And that'll be our final round of voting on this. And then the task force will present that information to the congregation and to the board. And at our annual meeting in May, we'll have an official vote of the congregation, of the membership on that decision. And I think that's it. I don't know if we still have, I said so much during joys and concerns that maybe I prohibit us from having time for questions, but I'm available during coffee hour to answer questions. And like I said, we have on Monday night and Thursday night, virtual town halls where you can, and by that time you'll have time to read through the report, I hope. And consider what some of the responses are. And if you weren't able to do the survey, certainly you will want to come to town hall to express your opinions, and then be on the lookout for that final survey that'll come out. When did we say? Sometime in early April. Well, early April's next week, I guess. Time gets away from me. But soon enough that we can have the results, and, you know, we have to give, our bylaws require us to give prior notice 2 weeks before the congregational vote on it. So you'll have all that information. So we're still on a kind of a tight timeline, but we feel with this, with the town hall, this survey, the virtual town halls that'll happen this week, and then this final survey, we will have done as much as possible to get your input as members, as stakeholders in this church. You support this church with your money, your time, your effort, your commitment, your support, how we support each other. And so your opinion matters. And so we feel this is the best approach possible to get all that input. And that's all I have. And I really do want to thank the task force. They make me look good because I put together questions, and then they really wordsmithed and edited it and stuff, and they made it a very good instrument for this, and had really good suggestions for edits to the report. So what you see is really I did most of the writing, but they really had a lot of input in it. And so if you're really happy with the report, thank the task force. Anything you don't like about the report is on me. So thank you.
Thank you, Kim. And it was real, I think it was wonderful to have the people we did on the task force, because we had differing opinions about what the preferences were. So thank you, Kim, and the whole task force. There's a Kenneth Patton quote in our hymnal that reminds me of the process that we're taking part in right now. And in this reading, he talks about this house, which is really this community, this congregation. And he says, this house, this congregation offers a platform for the free voice, for declaring, both in times of security and danger, the full and undivided conflict of opinion. This process of creating a space to consider our name really honors our historic faith that holds as paramount the democratic process. We honor this knowing that our opinion is only one opinion and may not be the decision chosen by the community. And yet, as a community, we honor the decision of the whole. We come together, we discuss, we compromise, then we speak as one voice. So thank you, each of you, for participating in this example of healthy democracy at work. Thank you once again to the task force members, and most of all to Kim, who spent an amazing amount of time creating and executing the survey. So, in the spirit of our democratic commitment and our process of building community, I invite us to rise in body or spirit to share hymn number 34, Though I May Speak with Bravest Fire. We extinguish the flame of our chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Our benediction was written by Kent McCusick. To serve, to grow, and to love. In the name of all that is holy, may the connections between us inspire us and sustain us. May the flame of life within us and amongst us be a sacred reminder that we are called to serve, to grow, and to love as we continue the journey of transformation.
Blessed be. I look forward to seeing you in May.